Hi. So there's still some forms going on in my room. As you can see, there's a little hole there, and you can see the outlets there, like still out and all that. But before the contractor arrives, I kind of like wanted to go through my head because the last video I recorded that was for my journal section. I kind of like talked about how I was wondering, I was a little afraid that I was going to get manic. And I did go to the doctor yesterday, and he prescribed me two, new medications, and then he cut one of them. And I've already seen some improvement in my sleep. This night I went to sleep like an hour and a half more than I've been lately. And like this whole thing with sleep is that in general, like you have to sleep well, we all know that. But when I'm manic, I have like less need for sleep. Number one, and even though I sleep less, I'm usually more energized. So today I end up sleeping more, and I wake up energized, but I think it's a little bit more contained. Although like I woke up later because I take medication 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. So it was closer to that. So I kind of I went straight to taking the medication. So then that also had like an effect. But yeah, so my sleep seems to be a little bit controlled. Oh, I did not take clozapine yesterday when I was going to bed, which is something that I've been taking basically every day for the past week or so. I was having some visual and sensorial, I don't know if that's a word, some hallucinations. I was like feeling things and like seeing things. I wasn't hearing things, but pretty much like over there. And I didn't have that yesterday. I was able to go to bed fairly quickly, and no issues whatsoever, and also like no thoughts of like no despondency, no thoughts of death, so no nothing. So it was a simple change in the medication that really ended up going a long way. I kind of like still have, we're gonna go out this afternoon, we have some stuff to do, and some of it is going to be pleasure. I'm kind of already looking forward to some things. I've been buying some beverages, as I mentioned, some Chinese and Korean beverages, and there's like one more that I want. They have like an endless amount of beverages, it seems, but I'm kind of like focusing, so I take kind of like one at a time. So there's one that I've already tried, like this specific brand and this specific cup. I tried 3 flavors. There's one more that I want to try, and it's been kind of like how I've been going. And I'm like, oh yeah, also something positive that is kind of like happening. With the help of my mom, I would say she's helping me out with this, but the fact that I'm manic, there's like an overspending, and like you end up losing control a lot of times, and I haven't really been spending that much. Like yesterday we went out, and like everything I got was stuff that I was already planning on getting at some point, or that I was waiting to find it like at a better price. So no surprises there. And there was some stuff that I was coming across because I bought these shorts, like thinking that they were like exercise shorts, but they are just going out. They're like really like leggings, but like just above the knee. And then I was like, yeah, I can't. Yeah, they're not gonna last. They're kind of like very delicate for exercising, so I'm gonna change it. And like my plan for, because I'm not really needing anything, and like clothes wise I have a lot of stuff, but I have had the idea of like dyeing a short something green, because I bought the green dye, and I already have this already rope and a top, and I was thinking that if I got some very some beige, white, like gray, like light colors shorts, I will be able to dye them. So I decided, what, if I have for the same price, I'm gonna find them. And I did find some things yesterday, but they're not quite there. They were a little bit more expensive. And also, I thought there were just shorts that I really liked, but they were size 42, in Brazilian measurements. And like when I'm like normal, my size is 38. And then, there's some 36 things I can get and some 40 things I can get, but like I'm a little overweight, so I'm like at 40. And like I'm not gonna buy something larger because I'm planning on losing weight. That's pretty much the process of doing that. But so I didn't really buy it, and it would be like 20 bucks more expensive than the one I had, and also like it would probably get some type. It wouldn't be exactly as I wanted. Probably be, if it was a darker green, that also works. But the point is that I don't really need anything, and I'm not really buying things. As I said, I bought 2 things yesterday, and they were both stuff that was already like on my list. And I didn't go to like a lot of places, and I saw a lot of things. So that at least is controlled. So in terms of Maybe like for example the one I had like in May, that I was just spending a whole lot of money. It was mostly food, but like because the thing about food is that you can kind of like write it off as being kind of like something that you need because you do. But I wasn't just like eating to survive. I was eating more. I talked about before. I was in gluttony territory, and also like you can buy food at different price ranges, and like I was. It's not that I was. And also, I was like not buying stuff that's nutritious. I was buying like candy and sweets and snacks and stuff that is not particularly healthy. I honestly like I'm still at an age where I can just eat whatever, so I'm not particularly worried about that. But it is something for me to start to consider. Like my birthday is going to be a couple months from now. I'm gonna turn 28. 28 is like 2 years away from 30, and like things change in your body when you turn 30. And I mentioned it before. I'm not sure I want to get to like that milestone, but as of right now, I'm just acting as if I am. Talk about like the tattoo that I already got the budget, and I'm already exploring because I have like an idea. Because sometimes I get tattoos in shoes, so I got my ties, I got both of them weighing the same weight, same thing for my shins and like the arms, and these ones I got separately, and it's usually because like I can get a better price if I have more tattoos, so I prefer to do that, but I'm not really forcing to have an idea. Usually just get ideas that I have. So basically a lot of tattoos I have, they start with a sentence, like it is a sentiment that I have and I have to translate it into words. So one of them I already got it, so the other one I've been kind of like researching to see like images that work out the way I kind of like want. And like the plan is for me to get them in January, so I'm planning for the future. That's my version of it, but it is what it is. There are things that make me anxious, but I feel like every day I'm getting better at dealing with them, at handling them. Like I'm gonna have an assessment this Friday. It is not about me right now, it's about me about 2 months in 2023 and 2 months in 2024. So I had to take a lot of like exams and prescriptions and reports from my doctors, and usually like those assessments, they make me very anxious, and then I feel kind of anxious regarding them, but like I'm dealing with it better than I have in the past. So growth, I love that for me. I'm doing because that's pretty much where I want. Sometimes it feels hard, it feels like I'm never going to do better, like that I'm never really going to overcome some hurdles, but like day by day, little by little, I do seem to be getting somewhere, and that is as much as like you can expect out of life, right? They have a little improvement every day, but yeah, basically I don't know, like I'm doing better, but at the same time kind of not. It is a bit, my head is a bit of a mess, but I'm doing things, I'm accomplishing things, and today I might even like work on my novel, and it's exciting because as I said, I haven't worked on it since May 1st, and then June, July, today's the 29th, so like June, July, it's almost 3 months, so like that is something. Because also like writing, I usually, me writing, it means I'm doing well, because when I'm like up here, I can't write. When I'm down here, I also can't write. So usually, if there's a certain point where I'm like a little up here, a little down here, where I can still work, still do things, and then I might still be there. And as I said, the medication I took, it might be helping me get to this point, stay at this point. As I said, I feel like this night of sleep, maybe I'm just getting ahead of myself, but I feel like like the crescent that I was in, like it's been kind of like not that it hit a ceiling, at least for now, but like I feel like I'm doing better. I am feeling better. I mean, of course, once again, like I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself because it was just like one night of sleep, and now I'm like everything is okay. I'm not like that actually. I'm not like everything's okay, but I am a little bit more relaxed, and like less worried about what's going to happen in the future, like in the near future. I don't feel like I'm losing control anymore, because that is always like worrisome. And it's interesting, and something interesting that I have been observing is that when I'm like here and starting to get here, I'm very worried, very anxious about like this losing control thing. But I get to a certain point where I'm kind of embracing it. I kind of want that. Because we kind of like, oh, it is. It's not like ideal for you, for other people around you, but being in this state of mind where like you don't care about things and also certain things you have like no filter and no sense of danger. You know, like that pretty much means like you're devoid of fear and anxiety. And I was gonna say anger, but like when you hear like you're very anger prone, but you know, like living a life without that, like that feels great. You know, like that's, I feel like that sounds great, but it also feels great when you're in it, in the moment. It's only like afterwards that you have to deal with like the consequences, you know, the fallout of your actions and your mistakes. You know, it's interesting because like I call them in retrospect, I call those actions that I've had in the past like mistakes, but at a time they feel just right. They feel like, you know, like you're going through it, you know, and it's just, particularly when you're just so used to depression, like it's very liberating to be manic. And oh yeah, something else that I'm kind of like, you know, what I was wondering about today, because yesterday I was very fantasy prone. Like fantasies were happening, and you know, stuff that was kind of like put to the side became back to the forefront, and I was, you know, worried that that is pretty much, you know, because the thing about fantasies is that they take over my head, and then I don't really do anything. You know, I'm stuck there in that state of mind, and that is not great for me, because it's kind of like I'm frozen. You know, the same way that like I kind of am frozen when I'm depressed and I can't get anything done. You know, and also, you know, talking about the assessment, I still haven't, you know, started to, you know, come up with, because, you know, like I have to just, because basically, you know, like because this one, because, you know, for the past, we went to like this law firm for them to get, you know, the things done, and basically, so because they were doing kind of like the scheduling, like they gave me some tips, like nothing that I didn't, you know, already know or think of. But anyway, it was good that you kind of have them. But something they were saying is like let, you know, like specialists, you know, like speak. Like there's something they don't mention, like you mentioned, and you know, they're gonna ask about symptoms and stuff, and I have to kind of like put my thoughts in order, you know, because, you know, like I know the answers, but you know, my brain can be kind of like everything can be scrambled in my head, you know, and it has to do with my ADHD, with, you know, maybe my bipolar, but also has to do with my personality. Like I'm kind of scared, a bit of a scared brain sometimes. You know, not like in a bad way. It's just that sometimes there's just so many things I want to do that my brain just jumps from like one to the other. You know, also talking about physical, you know, restlessness. I think I might be doing better. For example, like I'm sitting here and I'm not really, you know, playing with my hair or like just stuffing my food or anything. So this might be, there's also maybe kind of like a side effect of that, a positive side effect of this new medication I'm taking. Also like this whole thing kind of like proves why it's good sometimes for you to just keep taking like a small dose of like some medications, because a lot of them, like it takes a little while for them to start working. So you've already had them a little bit on your system, it kind of like can start working right away. So there's that. I had to schedule an appointment with my endocrinologist. It's been in my head for a few days, but I kind of like keep on forgetting. So once I'm done with this video, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna, you know, send them a message WhatsApp. That's how I schedule things. Honestly, like I'm just so glad that we're at this point in time, like with this type of technology. Imagine having to call somebody. I mean, I still have to call people sometimes to, you know, schedule appointments, but it's so much more practical. You just send a message, and that's that. They answer when they can, and then I answer when I can, and then, you know, there we go. But yeah, so regarding like my brain, it does really feel like I am doing better. You know, even if it's just like a little bit in some parts. And as I said, like I wasn't in full manic. I was, you know, like in hypomanic territory. I was like arriving there. So like it's easier for you to just control things when you're still like down here. Because when you're here, like you did more, and you know, it's harder to control. I don't know, like it's been kind of like a weird moment for me, because I'm looking back at certain things that happened and like I'm almost like fondly of them, which is kind of weird. You know, I'm talking about, you know, for example, hallucinations I had, some of like the fucked up things that my brain has done, you know, to me, and I'm like, oh, look at that. And this worries me because, as I said, there's this kind of like idea of having no filter when you're like up there. Usually, you know, like it shows that you're kind of like almost there, and this feels similar to that, you know. I don't know. It is what it is, basically. So I think I'm gonna, you know, wrap this up, because yeah, kind of I have some other things I want to do in this morning because before we leave in the afternoon. At the same time, like I have like a lot of time to do that, and you know, like there's stuff I want to do, but I'm like that is not gonna do the whole time. And some of the things that I want to do, I can do them today. For example, I can make dessert because I made one yesterday and it's still there, and there are still some of the one I made before that. But I'm really happy with like how things have been turning out. To be honest, like I'm making these very crazy concoctions, and they're kind of working out. For example, yesterday. The one that I make, it was kind of like cappuccino, picadillo on top, and then what was the cake flavor like? Oh, it was blackberry cake, and then on the bottom it was guarana and chocolate picadillo. So you know, and then the other time, oh no, yesterday was raspberry the cake. Blackberry was the one before that, and it was tutti frutti, picadillo on the bottom, and then with some candy melted in some tutti frutti candy, and then blackberry, and then on top of it was I think it was just chocolate, and it working out. I had like my lemon banana with powdered milk thing last week, and there were the other ones. Like I'm taking pictures of every one of them, but I realize that I'm not really writing down what each of them is. I can remember like right now, but like a year from now, but like what is this? I know it's colorful, but what does that mean? But regarding my brain, I feel like things are a little bit more under control, and usually they are. I feel like this is probably side effect of medication. I'm not worried that I'm like losing control, even though it's not because I don't think I will, but it's because I'm like, if that happens, we're gonna deal with it when it happens. Like I don't have to worry about it, which is something that everybody keeps telling me, but a lot of the time, like it doesn't really help me. I don't feel like any more reassured by it. But like right now, I'm telling that myself, and I'm like, you know what? One day after the other, I don't have to worry about the entirety of my future today. Like I don't know what the future holds for me. I don't know what I'm gonna do. As I mentioned before, I'm planning on like changing my major, like starting over, and like I'm already like at this age, and I mean you can go to college at any age. Like there's not, like there's not there's not like a deadline that you can go. Like people go to college, ages. Sometimes they're getting like a second degree. Sometimes like it's the first one. So there's no right or wrong way. But I do feel old in terms of that because the people I went to high school with, the people I went to middle school with, like they all went to college. Like went right away after high school, or they studied for like a year before they got into college, which means that they already graduated. The ones they're still studying, they're like getting their masters, or I mean I don't know who's getting a PhD. Oh yeah, but they're already like at a different level. And as I said, like there's nothing wrong where I am at, but sometimes I look around and like, what am I doing? I don't honestly, like I'm in a really good place where I don't feel like all that I've done so far was a waste of time. Like no, I'm fine because I learned things, I gained experience, and I tried. I think that's the most important things. You have, because I think like we're all scared of failure, and failure was something that when I was a teenager, just paralyzed me. I really didn't know how to properly handle it. So much so that I had like so many fantasies and daydreams about a situation in which I didn't have to deal with the fantasies, with the failures. But I'm at a point where I kind of like come to accept it. It's not that I want to fail, but it happens. But like usually failing is a sign that you're trying. Because I think that my first years as an adult, there's so many things I didn't do because I was scared that I was going to fail, and thankfully I've overcome that, and I'm not scared of failure anymore. There's so many things that I've been able to overcome, and it's kind of like exciting to look back at myself, a decade ago when I was, a senior in high school, and to see how I've been able to improve as a person. I'm definitely not where I thought that I was going to be, and even because like I had a vision where I wanted to go, for my future, and that didn't happen. But I feel like even if I look at it from a different perspective, there was a point I wanted to be in my life at this age, and I haven't really reached that. But at the same time, like we should all do what we can. And also, like, there's no, as I said, there's no right or wrong way to live. Like we all make choices and we all live with them. And I've made my choices, and for so long, like I was filled with regret for the things I didn't do. Like it's mostly that. Like there are things that I've done that I feel like embarrassed about them. but it's mostly, what bothered me was mostly the things that I didn't do. And it's not just like professionally or academically, like in my personal life, in my interactions with people. There's so much. I feel like I was very repressed in high school, and it has to do with trauma, and that's to do with being very single-mindedly focusing on, the future I wanted myself to have. So the pregnancy of experiences, some of them, like I'm okay that I didn't have them, but I think it would have been fun for me to have them. I don't really see a context in which that would exist, that would happen, because where I was at mentally, like if it was me in high school, like then, like my experience was being very different, but not necessarily better or worse. I mean, there's some things that I'm like, like I was very stuck in my ways, so like if I was a little bit freer, it would have been better. But like it's very normal for you to be like that when you're a teenager. Like I got to this point, like existing and experiencing things. So I'm not looking back and being like, oh, I regret how things went down. Particularly because like I don't think I was equipped to handle with some of the things that because as I said, like if I went to high school right now, my experience would have been different. And as I said, not necessarily better or worse, just different, because I'm a different person. But at the same time, I'm kind of like me. That is, a bit of like a paradox, right? Because when I think about who I am, there was that trauma thing that happened when I was 13, back in 2011, and it changed me for the worst. And like years later, like I started to become myself again, like I was when I was a kid. And it's interesting because like that, you could say that as the real me, but like the other version of myself was me for like so long, so it was also me. It was like my trauma response. But so which one is really actually me? Like both of them are. It's just that one is like trauma free, not trauma free because like there's always going to be trauma, and like there's not like things that happen didn't happen, but it's one that has handled the trauma, has handled the things happening. But yeah, so it's kind of like that, where it's kind of like what I wanted to say. I'm doing better, like I don't know what's going to happen like next month, we're already on the 29th, so I don't know what August is going to be like. But as I said, I'm not anxious about it. I'm not making plans. I'm not like preparing or anything. I'm just going to ride this wave and see where it gets me. As I said, if I get to riding, that could mean like wonderful things for me in August. And usually, as I said before, like me riding means that like I'm in a good place mentally. So yeah, so maybe that's what I'm gonna do this morning. Like there are so many things that I can. It feels kind of like like there are endless things that I can do. It's not like really endless, but it's just that like a lot of them, like I don't want to feel like doing them right now. Some of them, like I feel like they need more supply. Oh, the earrings. So the earrings that they were yellow and green and purple, I basically used paint remover, and this is what they look like right now. I'm really happy with the result because like it's almost back to their initial wooden state, but it looks like a light green. So I have like a dark green, and now I have like a light green, and then it's kind of like a tealish green. Like it's not tealish, but like it leans to blue rather than yellow. They still smell like remover. Yeah. Oh. And these are the other shoe earrings that I got. Okay, they're stuck. So I have the ones that I painted, this dark green color, which I love, and I have these ones that look like the bigger ones I have, but I painted them like a rose, really nice. And the earrings that I painted red, the work ring, I put them in the paint remover thing, and they dissolved basically, so I no longer have those earrings. So yeah, that's been kind of like, I have ideas, I have stuff, that I want, necklace, right? I think I gained experience, but I need some more things. For example, this necklace, I fixed it, like the cord was kind of like, like broken, so I finally fixed it. And you see how like it is very, a lot of like different things. I kind of like gave me the idea of like getting a lot of like different, beads and stuff. So when I go downtown, the next time I go downtown, I'm gonna get some stuff, and I'm gonna make some necklaces. You could say they have like an excess of necklaces at this point. I don't disagree, but you know, making them, like, it is really good for my head, and it's also a way for me to express my creativity. And it's interesting because, like, sometimes the thing about creativity is that, like, it's kind of contagious. So, like, I'm being creative in one area of my life, it can kind of like seep into like other things. So for example, I'm being creative this way, they can kind of like seep into like my writing, for example. So that's that. Anyways, bye.